we are a metals producer in Mexico. I say metals producer because we're almost half and half base metals and precious metals, which puts us in a bit of a unique position. What that means is that we are one of a very few, possibly the only company that's actually on the GDXJ and the COPX, which is the GDXJ, of course, your listeners will know as the Junior Gold Mining Index, and the COPX is the copper index. So it helps to be a polymetallic producer. We operate two mines in Mexico. One is in Guerrero. It's the Campo Morado mine. It's about a 6-hour drive due south of Mexico City. We access it by road, and that's kind of 2/3 to 3/4 of our value there. And then we've got a gold silver mine in northwest Durango. It's up in the Sierra Madre gold belt. We raised money at 45 cents, and our share price treaded water for the better part of 2 months in around that 45 to 50 cent, and these are Canadian dollars, of course. And then we started to move. We started to deliver on the vision that I had been communicating. We started paying down debt. We actually bought back a convertible debenture, and this was about a year ago from right now. We reduced, unique for a junior mining company, we actually reduced our fully diluted issued and outstanding over the course of the past year. And we made some really exciting things happen. Dan Barnholden, Luca Mining, good afternoon to you, my friend. How are you? Thanks, Andy. I'm doing great. Nice to be on your show. I think we haven't caught up since Rick Rule's conference, so good to be back with you. Yeah, you know what? You bring up a great point. No, we haven't caught up since then. And I want to just briefly mention to all my listeners, I first met the company, I'd say Javier, at the 24 Rick Rule conference, Rick Rule Symposium. I didn't get a chance to meet you. I believe you just came on. That was my first day. I was announced the first morning of the Rick Rule 2024 conference. Right, right. And then I did meet you. I became an investor after that conference. And then I've actually told all my investors, I have traded in on the stock. I do currently own shares. And I've owned them for, I want to say, going on close to 9 months. And when I main trade out, I keep a core position, and I have added to it, but I have at times sold. So just so everybody knows, full disclosure. We talked, I got to know you more in Toronto at last year's, March 25 PDAC. That's right. We had dinner together, and that was really cool. That was special because got to know Dan, but also just really the vision and direction of Luca. But really, what I want to do with you now is like for investors, people that don't know anything about Luca Mining, give us a 30,000-foot view, and then I'd like to get more into the vision of 26 and what's going to be happening in 26 with you guys. But go ahead. Yeah, you bet. So from a high level, we are a metals producer in Mexico. I say metals producer because we're almost half and half base metals and precious metals, which puts us in a bit of a unique position. What that means is that we are one of a very few, possibly the only company that's actually on the GDXJ and the COPX, which is the GDXJ, of course, your listeners will know as the Junior Gold Mining Index, and the COPX is the copper index. So it helps to be a polymetallic producer. We operate two mines in Mexico. One is in Guerrero. It's the Campo Morado mine. It's about a 6-hour drive due south of Mexico City. We access it by road, and that's kind of 2/3 to 3/4 of our value there. And then we've got a gold silver mine in northwest Durango. It's up in the Sierra Madre gold belt, and that's about a quarter to a third of our value. Both of our mines are growing. Like many mines in Mexico, they were starved for capital from COVID until 2024 when the metals market turned substantially. So we have been investing heavily in both of our mines, particularly in exploration, but also finishing some of the development. And and making some of the investments that should have been made in those 5 previous years, but weren't because capital was scarce. And also the political scene in Mexico was not great for FDI, foreign direct investment, particularly in the mining sector. The previous administration was not supportive of mining. And so the opportunity that I came into was two operating mines that were short on capital, short on exploration. The team was small, and so we've grown that team over the last year and a half. And so we've really taken a kind of an underperforming company, invested capital, time, exploration dollars, expertise into these two mines, and we've turned them around. We've turned them into a cash flowing operation, and we're in a really good position right now. I'm really happy with where we are, and it's allowed us to put out 2 weeks ago. We put out a vision for a 3-year exploration plan that we're really excited about. We think that the exploration potential at both of our mines is extraordinary.
Got it, Lon. I want to work that out a little bit more. We'll dive into the 3-year plan here. But when we met in Toronto, I we discussed because I was along for the ride. We had a really good run, and I might add to all my viewers and listeners, Luca, I want to say was one of the when the juniors started to move last year, last January, even before then, Luca was one of, if not the leader, in moving in that movement, if you would. So. I was really happy with that, but I had a concern, and my concern was and I phrased it like this: there's a different skill set and different expertise that in the exploration and really in development or taking a stock from 10, 20 cents, 30 cents a share to over $1, if you would, and then really to 2, 3, $5, getting more share value, if you would. And it looks like you guys are doing that, investing in on that, investing in the company to doing that. But talk a little bit about that and then take that into your 3-year exploration vision, if you would. How did you do that, and how are you going to continue to do that? Again, increase value, shareholder value, and then talk about your vision, your 3-year exploration.
Yeah, you bet. It's an interesting comment, Andy, that you make, because you're absolutely right. I mean, we raised money in September of 2024, really before the market started to turn, and it was a really tough time to raise money. We raised money at 45 cents, and our share price treaded water for the better part of 2 months, in around that 45 to 50 cent, and these are Canadian dollars, of course. And then we started to move. We started to deliver on the vision that I had been communicating. We started paying down debt. We actually bought back a convertible debenture, and this was about a year ago from right now. We reduced, unique for a junior mining company. We actually reduced our fully diluted issued and outstanding over the course of the past year, and we made some really exciting things happen. And the market started to appreciate what we were doing, and our share price went very quickly from kind of 50 cents to $1.50, and again in Canadian dollars. And we were sort of the belle of the ball early half of 2025. We executed on a lot of the business case that I had put forward. In more recent times, we have, and I'll just be blunt and honest, we've disappointed investors over the course of the last 2 quarters with our production numbers, with our AISC, with our recoveries and so forth. And so our share price has sort of treaded water over the course of the last 3 to 6 months. That's been disappointing for me, disappointing for investors. And
Good
and
for me because I've been buying more, but go ahead.
well, you know what? So have I, Andy. So have I. I mean,
To be very candid with you, but go ahead.
I have put another $100,000 into the company over the course of the last 2, 3 weeks. We put out our Q3 financials. They were a bit of a disappointment to the market. Our share price dipped, and a lot of the insiders, some of the directors, some of the senior executives took that as an opportunity to buy more stock. And so I think that that's a bit of a bit of a vote of confidence, and it also suggests that that certainly the insiders of this company believe that we have turned a corner. And some of the investment that we made, a big part of the reason why our costs were high and our cash flow generation was limited. In fact, we burned cash each of the last 2 quarters, is because we've been making those investments that I talked about. We've been investing in exploration. We've been investing in capital opportunities that will pay off in 2026 and beyond. And so, again, I'll just be blunt. I probably, after Q1, we were feeling pretty good about ourselves. I probably overestimated um, how easily we had turned the corner in Q1, because Q1 looked great. We did $11.2 million in free cash flow in Q1. And it was easy to extrapolate that. And, 11 times 4, you're kind of between 40 and $50 million in true free cash flow. Needless to say, that hasn't materialized over the course of 2025. We've had to scale back our cash flow generation expectations. But the thing that we were and have been able to do is we've been able to invest heavily in the operations and in exploration without having to come back to market. And
Mhm.
so we have been investing the cash that we have generated into the operations, and that will absolutely pay dividends in 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect answer. Is that really, and I saw that, and again, this is not financial advice to all my viewers and listeners, but I saw the dip as, and basically it was an opportunity not only to buy, but okay, the cash going out is just investments that are being made, if you would. So you're spending the money, but you're spending the money wisely putting it back into the company. And whenever, again, to all my viewers and listeners, whenever there's just investment, reinvestment into the company, or even acquisitions or whatever have you, you will actually typically see a drop in the stock price, just because again the cash flow isn't there, or as it was, just because of the cost of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, what we ramped up was investment in the operations. One of the things that we did in Q3, which was unexpected, but it's turned out very well here in Q4, and I expect we'll do so, is we changed our mining contractor at Tahuehueto. We had been working with a group, and I don't want to name names, but that was undercapitalized, was struggling to mine as quickly as we wanted them to in order to completely fill the mill. And when we made the difficult decision in Q2 and executed in Q3 to actually change our mining contractor. And what that has meant is that we are now actually delivering well in excess of 1,000 tons per day to the mill at Tahuehueto, day in and day out. And we actually think that we can push that to averaging 1,200 tons a day, and then
Wow.
maybe even push it to 1,500 tons a day over the course of the next few years. So you think about that. I mean,
20 to 50, 30% increase. Go ahead. I'm interrupting
well,
you.
we averaged 820, right? We
Right.
averaged we averaged 820.
Right.
I don't think we're ever going to average 1,500, but if you imagine that we can optimize to 1,500, of course, we'll continue to have down days for maintenance, and we'll have planned and unplanned maintenance. But 1,000 tons per day at 82% availability gets you to 820 tons a day. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase the availability. We think we should be having in excess of 90% availability. So right there, that gets you to 900 tons a day. But then if we push that 1,000 to 1,200 and you get 90% availability, now you're talking about 1,080
Right.
relative to 820. So you're actually talking about a 25% increase in throughput at Tahuehueto as a consequence of a difficult decision to change our mining contractor. Well, I don't think anybody's expecting that. I don't think anybody's seeing that. I don't think that that's really been accounted for in the investment case that the average investor is thinking about. And so that's an example of something that we did over the course of Q3, which cost us, and obviously was a disappointment in Q3, but that investment and sucking it up through Q3 is going to pay real dividends in Q4 and beyond. And I can tell you, I mean, over the course of the first 2 months of the year, of the quarter, we've seen major improvements at Tahuehueto on a grade basis, on a throughput basis, on an efficiency basis. And people call and say, "Gosh, your AISC is extremely high," and it is. But we put a lot of things into that AISC that maybe other companies try and play a bit of funny business with. And so what we like to be able to do is draw a line directly from your AISC to your cash flow at the bottom line. And a lot of companies, and again, not naming names, but our industry is terrible for this, is sort of not presenting full, true, and plain disclosure about, here's our revenue line, here's our cost line, and then a bunch of stuff happens before you actually get to the bank balance. So we're trying to be as transparent as we can with, here's our revenue, here's our cost, here's our bank balance, right?
Yep.
And sometimes that cuts both ways. Sometimes that bites us in the butt, as it did in Q3.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm being too gracious and not objective enough, but that doesn't seem like a problem. I mean, it's like it's a fixed problem, but it's a problem that's been fixed, and really, I'm glad that you guys. And what I mean by problem is that you weren't maximizing the mill, if you would, and then now it seems like you are on the way. If not hitting on that now, you're executing on that now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I don't want to get too deep into the operational weeds, Andy, but
Yeah.
I'll just focus on that just a little bit more. At that mill site, we have a 950 ton per day ball mill and a
Yep.
450 ton per day ball mill.
Got it.
And if those are both running properly, and 450 plus 950, 1400. And you can push those a little bit beyond design capacity. And that's where I get to that 1500 ton per day
Mhm.
number that we think is probably the full complete optimization of the mill is probably to about 1500 tons a day. Um, Look, I've been in the seat for 18 months. One of the things that I've learned is I don't want to sell too hard because that can come back and bite you. I'm just telling you that this is what is possible. Will I say things are fixed? Gosh, in mining, things are never fixed. Things are running well today,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I expect that to continue. And yeah, we're very happy with the first 2 months of this quarter at both of our operations. I'll tell you that.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's talk, work out for me again the drilling vision. You mentioned a 3 year, you just laid out 2 weeks ago, your 3 year exploration vision, if you would, and tie that into the vision of the company. And that goes back to one of the original questions here is it takes a different skill set. It takes a different vision, but also to execute on the vision, if you would, to taking a company that was, again, 20, 30 cents a share to a dollar, taking it from a dollar to, five, $10 or whatever the next, the next major developer, if you would, in the area in Mexico, for example, the First Majestic or something. That just takes a different skill set. So again, the vision of that, the 3 year vision, exploration, and then just the vision of the company where you are taking this.
Sure. And that's kind of the goal is you hit the nail on the head and First Majestic and Keith is a friend of mine. Another company that we admire a great deal is Alamos. And 20 years ago, when I was a junior investment banker, I worked with John on raising money at 50 cents to get Mulatos off the ground, which was, of course, Alamos's first mine in Mexico. Of course, over the course of the last 20 years, that stock has returned 100 times, which is, you know, dare to dream, but that's kind of John and Keith are people who've done great work in this business, and we as a company admire a great deal. So that's sort of what we're shooting for, and good to have high goals and aspirations. Um, Yeah, so there's two pieces there. One, the exploration and how that fits in. You'll recall, Andy, when we first met, I'm a finance guy, right? So I don't have operational expertise. I don't have geologic expertise. So what we have done in the year and a half since I've been in the chair is we have hired an extraordinary team. And I think for a company our size, we put together a team that is as good as any and frankly, companies that are much, much larger than ours. I think that we've got a very good team. And so on the exploration side, I put together a very good and credible Mexican exploration team that consists of three senior people. Paul Gray, who's our VP of Exploration, Jillian Carville, who is an extraordinarily experienced Mexican geologist. She's a woman who lives just outside of Lake Chapala in Mexico. So she's lived in Mexico for 20 plus years. She was on the tech team that did all of the um, Guerrero exploration, including being the VP of exploration for the company New Strike that made the Ana Paula discovery about 15 years ago. So she's very credible, very competent, and resident in Mexico, fluent in Spanish. And then Fernando Teliz, who is, again, a Mexican national. He had previously been working at Coeur. He has joined us. And so those three senior geologists I believe are second to none as far as exploration talent that we have at our company. Um, and it's important to remember that this company had no exploration. There was no VPX. There were no senior exploration geologists when I joined. And so that was the big thing that I did over the course of the first sort of 6 or 7 months that I was here was build an exploration team. The second thing we did, obviously, is we funded exploration. Over
Mhm.
the course of the last 12 months, we've invested about $5 million in exploration, and it has paid real dividends. We've seen really important exploration results at Campo Morado into the zones to the northwest of our current mining efforts, and that's the Reforma zone. And we've talked about Reforma in the past. That is the high-grade gold zones to the northwest of where our current mining efforts are, and that's going to be the future of Campo Morado. Just for context, we tend to mine 1 to 1.5 grams per ton gold in addition to zinc, copper, silver, and lead. The zones to the northwest, we think are almost double from a
Wow.
gold perspective.
Then you're
So
high grade.
you're talking
Yeah.
about 2.5 to 3 grams per ton gold. And
Hmm.
that obviously in a market where the gold price is 4,000, 4,200, 4,300. I mean, that's a real improvement in revenue or net smelter return for us. So that's a big part of what we're doing. And a big part of this year's exploration spend is gone into confirming and expanding the Reforma zone at Campo Morado. The next piece of that will be working through the metallurgy there. The metallurgy is at Campo Morado is a bit complex, and so we've been working with Ausenco on sort of optimizing the recoveries for precious metals. And I think that we can come back to that, but that's an important distinction about the future and what the future is going to look like at Campo Morado. And then over at Tahuehueto, we've invested heavily in exploration again, and the results continue to be good. And again, not to get too deep into the weeds, but the Tahuehueto mine is on a mountain. We're mining on this side of the mountain. We've gone on over to the other side of the mountain. We're drilling back across, and the goal of that is to demonstrate that the veining actually goes all the way through the mountain. If we can do that, we think that we can double or triple the mineral inventory that we have at
Wow.
Tahuehueto. So real high impact exploration work. Again, 2 weeks ago, we put out a press release that outlines our vision. We've struck up a partnership with a group called Verify, which does artificial intelligence. We are using them to assist. And if ever there was a scenario that was going to be appropriate for artificial intelligence, it is at Campo Morado. There has been tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars invested in exploration at Campo Morado over the course of the last 30 years, and the data sets that have been generated are incredible. And so we are applying machine learning to these data sets. We're going to layer that over top of the work that human intelligence has done, and we're going to generate all kinds of new targets for drilling. And we're very excited about that going into 2026 and beyond at Campo Morado.
Well, I think you answered all that. That's really exciting. And I can see a path to, and I'll use First Majestic again, which I'm also an investor, full disclosure to all my
I'm
viewers.
sure you've done well on that.
I've done well. But I'll tell you a story, and to all my viewers and listeners, first met Keith. I didn't meet him in person, but first met him 15 years ago, and right when they started going public, and that's when I started buying them up. So, anyways, um, great. I guess what I'd like to, well, let me ask you first. Let's talk about share structure, and that's what I typically focus on. I'm not a geologist, if you would, but I do know what grade is. But I do focus on management and jurisdiction and share structure, which we haven't talked about. So let me ask you, how much cash do you have in the bank? Are you fully funded through 26? How many shares do you have fully diluted out with all your options and warrants? Yeah, how many shares outstanding do you have fully diluted? Answer that for me.
Yeah, we've got about 285 fully
You're
diluted.
really tight for where you're at. Go ahead.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, in January of this year, we actually executed a transaction with Trafigura, who is a lender to us and our off-taker. We bought back a convertible debenture and we canceled it. So we actually, over the course of 2024, with some modest dilution for employee options, we actually reduced our fully diluted issued and outstanding over the course of 2024.
I don't think
Uh,
I've ever heard that. Not in a junior. I don't
Well,
think I've
we're,
ever
we're,
heard
we're, we're quite proud of that.
that.
Cash, so we got 285. I think about 265 are issued and outstanding today. We got about 20 million in dilutables. About 4 or 5 of those are from the financing that we did that had an 18-month warrant. Again, the usual is 24 months. We negotiated hard with the banks, and so what that means is in March of next year, all of those warrants will be out of the way, and we will have a fully clean balance sheet and cap structure. We'll just have a modest number, 5% or so of employee stock options. And then on the cash question, I think that at the end of Q3, we had about $16 million in the bank. Again, we'll get a little bit of money in from the warrants. We are paying down debt aggressively. And again, I think we've talked about the debt. We will be debt-free by June of 2026. There's some vagaries with how the debt all fits together. There's actually 3 discrete debt components. 2 of them will be fully extinguished at the end of this month, December. And so then we'll only be paying about $300,000 a month for the balance of that 6-month period. So we will have taken our debt, principal and interest from about $850,000 a month to $350,000 a month to zero over the course of the next six months. Look, we do have some capital expenditures related to improvements to the plant that are going to be required to recover more of the gold at Reforma. And we think that that's going to be a multi-tens of millions of dollar investment. There may be some equity associated with that, but again, it's not going to be this massive dilution that you might see or expect at a company building a new mine, because the mine and the infrastructure is there. These are 30, 40, $50 million investments, of which a substantial amount can be paid with debt. I mentioned that we're going to be debt-free in June. Well, guess what? June is around the time that we might be looking to finance these capital improvements. It's pretty good to go with a clean balance sheet and debt-free to go to potential lenders and say, "Hey, would you like to backstop us on building these or investing in our mill to optimize for precious metals recovery?" So that's That's how we see the balance sheet. I have put about $2 million into this company. I didn't get any free stock. I didn't get any cheap stock. I don't have any half penny paper. I put about $2 million of my own money into this company, and I bought it either on market or I bought it in offerings. And so I think like an owner of this company. I think like you do. Let's uh, let's not be let's not be overly cautious with capital, but let's be very focused on that capital structure and the number of shares that we have outstanding.
Yeah, well said. Dan, people want to learn more about Luca. If they want to buy you, where do they go? What exchanges are you traded on, and what are your ticker symbols?
Yeah, so we're on our primary exchange, of course, is the TSX Venture LUCA, easy to remember, Luca Mining. In the US, we can be bought over the counter, LUCMF. And one of the things that I've heard, I'm sure you've heard from lots of your guests, is we are certainly looking at accessing a U.S. listing either through the Nasdaq or the NYSE. We've seen that improve liquidity. We've seen that improve share price. So we are certainly looking into that. I would expect to hear more about that in 2026. And then, of course, we're also on the Frankfurt Exchange. Z68 is the ticker there. I don't th we don't put that much time and attention into Frankfurt, but we certainly do into courting European investors as well as American and Canadian.
Excellent. So, to all my viewers and listeners, again, I am an investor in Luca Mining. I've been a happy investor for going on, I want to say, 18 months now when I first met Luca and a plug for Rick at Rules Mining Conference, and I was very happy with that. I also, if you ever do get to meet Dan in person, he's one of the most charismatic guys you'll meet, and that's in the best ways. He's one of the reputation here in Atlanta. He's one of the best presenters of a company out there. So please listen to a presentation if you get the time. He's fantastic. Dan, always great to catch up with you. I look forward to potentially having you on again in the new year. I'd love to have that.
You bet, Andy. And to your listeners in Atlanta, I'm overdue for a visit. I'm going to try my best to get there in January, early February. I missed my visit in November, but I'll be back.
Well, I'll see you in Atlanta then. All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Take care.
Thanks, Andy.